It's okay. This is the fun part. So set up this on page 27 and 28. I'm gonna give you like 7 minutes because I know it's a lot and you're gonna need rulers. We're gonna walk around. If you're unclear about anything, make sure you date it. I messed up right here. I got the wrong date. This is actually supposed. This is day 120. Okay. So that's what you're doing for the next 7 minutes. Set up your pages, page 27, 28, right next to each other. While you're doing that, I'm gonna start warning you like. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Paper. I did it. Done. You guys have 1 minute and 30 seconds. I'll give it back to you, but I gotta input it into Fluidity because check Fluidity. I use this weekend to see your report. You want to talk about your writing? We can talk about it. Okay, number, now I have to set up my phone. Everyone has set up page 27 and 28, or did we get confused and we just needed to do 27? Again? Okay, and everyone should have the article right in front of you. We're gonna start with the before when reading, okay? Before reading, so we're gonna fill that out for ourselves. Remember, the reason we are doing this is this article can be used as evidence for our essay. Okay? So here we go. Here's mine. Use my sloppy writing. Kind of set it up before you were done. Focus, remember, is what we think it's about because it is before reading. We don't really know exactly everything, but we do know what. We can see the title, we can see who wrote it. So based on the title, what do you think this article is about? It's called I Freed Myself. So what do we think is the focus? The slaves? The slave point of view, I heard someone, oh yeah? You agree with him?
You didn't get out.
Oh, you didn't get the article? You're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Sorry, that's my fault. Okay, so it's gonna be about what? Okay, so we can say this reading, remember, we're not putting it in a full sentence yet because these are our pre-notes. When we actually put the little paragraph together, we're gonna adjust for what we're going to write. I'm just basically writing down that this reading could be about slaves and their perspective ending slavery. Maybe that's what I think. Okay. And ending slavery. Okay, that's what I think it is. Who's the author? David Williams. Put David Williams right here, and I myself because I did not leave enough space between my stuff. So now I'm having to punch it up. What's the title? What's the title? I Freed Myself. Okay, what's the text type? What is this? A book, an article? Yeah, I think we can call it an article. So this is an article. Okay? So that's what we know so far. You always have to be ready to look at it, okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're gonna start reading and annotate. So we're gonna do it together, but the first thing that we're going to do is we're gonna number the paragraphs. Why do we number the paragraphs? No. We number the paragraphs so that when we go and cite, we can be really specific from where we're getting it from. Okay, and the reason we cite is because we want to give credit to the person that's writing this, that is supporting our ideas and what we are writing. Okay, so right now, what everyone's gonna do is you're gonna take your pencil and you're gonna start numbering these paragraphs. Let me know if I miscount, but this is paragraph number 1. This is paragraph number 2. And also it lets you know, okay, where does one paragraph begin and one end? So I have 3 in the first page. And I believe this 3 continues all the way right here. And then this is 4 right here, 5 right here, 6 right here, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You number these paragraphs. I'm not just up here telling for myself. Number your paragraph. Not gonna be done by themselves every night. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay. 3.
Rachel.
So what do you think? Well,
Easy peasy.
yeah. Oh. Well, did I miss that? I had 23.
Can you go behind?
Did I miss that? Oh, I did miss count. Thanks. By the way, to tell me there are actually 24 paragraphs in this part of the count. Sorry. So if you counted 24, you are correct. I skipped a paragraph. My bad. Now, go ahead, just if you want. We're gonna start reading. Okay. Yes, ma'am. There's a total of 24 paragraphs. Oh, shoot, do we need? I had, okay, you skipped some, I know I skipped the one.
How many you got? 25? Anyone else got 25? Or you got 25 for? Most of them got 25. Are you still counting? What about you? What you
I
got?
don't see anywhere else.
How many
that
you
I
got?
lined up here.
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Is it 25?
From there to here, yeah. That's a start, okay.
Oh, you are right.
So 25, I got 25.
25.
So you're right.
I will be adjusting as I go, but you are right. I skipped 2 paragraphs. That's when you skipped one. That's 9. And 11.
You're close, you're close.
Looks like a dog now. Wow. What? I missed another one? Well, 13, 13, 14, 15, 16. Then here's our grade. 17, 18, 19. Here, 20 is right up here. Right? It's 25, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, right. Let's get started. Up here, you're gonna put the acronym CUBS to remind us of what we're doing. Circle, keyword. Okay. Underline. Main idea. Box. Unknown. Word. And then you're gonna do sidebar, which is questions, comments, connection. Okay, connection. Okay, and the sidebar is really important because if you were to use this quote, if you're gonna like pull something out of this article, the sidebar is gonna let you know why did I do this? Why am I pulling it out? Okay, I'm gonna start with okay, here we go. Mr. Who feels like reading today?
Ready? There you go.
Sure, you get an extra point.
Take it, take it.
What paragraph? What paragraph?
Yeah, we're gonna do paragraph by paragraph. I don't wanna be reading the whole time, that's why I get to the mic.
Want me to start off?
So we can.
Want me to
share.
start? You start off?
Yeah, I've already read it, you said.
Okay,
Generations of Americans have grown up believing that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves with the stroke of his pen. Lost in this simple portrayal.
portrayal.
Can you see the line?
It's an auxiliary, that's okay.
Is the law that the enslaved created in enforcing the issue. Resistance to the slavery took many forms, the most celebrated of which were various escape routes popularly called the Underground Railroad.
Alright. Okay, you can pause right there. And then we're gonna underline here, resistance to slavery took many forms. The most celebrated, which were various escape routes, properly called the Underground Railroad. And the reason why they're so famous is that you are probably aware of that, right? That's what they teach you in elementary school. The first thing you learn about is not Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman, right? Okay, go Christian.
Harriet Tubman, the most famous of the railroads conductors, led hundreds of the Indians to freedom. Rewards offered for her capture totaled as much as 40 grand. But she was never caught. Neither was Arnold Braxton and his slave in Kentuckians who freed hundreds of fellow slaves across the Ohio River before making his own escape. Peter, a tall black African in Pittsburgh, sheltered escaping slaves. When his home was searched for refugees, he proclaimed that he would harbor as many as he left.
As he did it, it's like he stuttered.
Well, please. A local court sentenced him to 20 slashes. Bill, a Richmond slave, was also whipped for sheltering refugees. Thanks to these men and women and many others like them. Perhaps 100,000 enslaved people escaped north in the first half of the 19th century.
I'm gonna circle this number right here, 100,000 enslaved people. I circled some of the names of the individuals that helped. Harriet Tubman, Arnold Braxton, Peter. Did I miss anyone else that helped? Let's see. And you can also so this really tells us about what? Different people.
I remember we did one for the, what's it called? We're doing the first quarter. Remember I got one about an author for this year. Something.
Why am I going blank right now? I have his face in my mind, it don't come to me. Different people who help with what? Freeing enslaved people, right? You wanna make sure you write this down. If you wanna go here, there's a paragraph where it describes people, and I wanna use that paragraph, you wanna highlight it. You wanna do something on the side to let you know, oh, this is something I wanna bring up. Okay, we don't have another volunteer? Okay, go ahead, Ruby.
Escaping slavery was dangerous work. Slave catchers and liberals were caught on the heels of nearly every escape. Captured refugees could have toes or even have a foot put on to discourage further escape. Death could also result. One slave was whipped so badly after he failed attempt that he died 3 days later. For most enslaved people, the greatest
Deterrent
to escape was the near
constantly, certainly, I can't even say that word, certainty. Okay.
that they would never see loved ones again. My
Happy tried,
pappy tried to get away with Paul to marry Ella Granberry, whose family was held in Alabama, but he couldn't see how to take all his children with him. So he had to stay with us.
okay, thank you, sorry about that, blurred. So when we look at this, what is it telling us about what they confronted? Certain what? Death, right? They would certainly, if they escaped, they would die. So here's an example of what would happen to them, right? I would highlight, underline that right here. My pencil. If escape certain death. And what else did they, what did they say? Oh, they would like their toes would get cut off, to discourage them from escaping, to also make it difficult for them to walk that long walk. They will cut those toes, because without your toes, it makes it really hard for you to walk. So if escape certain, death or punishment, right? And it's not just punishment of like, we're not gonna pay you because they didn't pay them. It's like physical, like abuse, torture, thank you for that word. And so that's what's happened. So a lot of them were what? Because they knew that this is what they're confronting, what would they do? Not go, right? The risk is too high. It's too high for them, right? It's too high. So that's what they're thinking. So let's go, anyone else? Go ahead, paragraph 4.
Those born between the burden of slavery and the family often resort to the escape. Local escapes were more often temporary and fared less than a week. It was not unusual for slaves to have themselves overnight, especially on weekends. To visit friends or family, to attend dances or prayer meetings, or simply to get some rest. Slaves taught about wearing hats from their owners, to be severely lived by the category. As a slave called them. But us was young and spry. We called Virginia a free woman, fish shackleford, and to outrun.
Okay, so then what did they do? So a lot of them escaped, but they escaped close by. You know, so they didn't go far. They escaped that night and went to see family, or they went to those church meetings, or it was overnight only on the weekends, okay? For friends and family, for dances, prayer. So they were escaping, but they would come back. Okay, so temporary, and then they will come back. But if they were caught, what will happen?
Not severely whipped.
Yep, and here it is right here. Uh-huh. But they took those risks. They had to. What would you do? If you knew your family's right over there, but you couldn't see them and you had to find a way to go see them. Okay? Paragraph number 5.
Any volunteers?
Yes.
Whipping and other physical abuse was often a reason for temporary escape. If they were treated too cruelly, Virginia Shepherd, we called our host, would always run and hide in the woods. Alicia Patterson told of running off after being mistreated by her owner. He sent everybody he thought he knew where I was after me and told them to tell me if I would only come on home. No one would ever bother me anymore, so I went back home. And no one ever bothered me anymore. Such bargaining was not uncommon. Other reasons slaves might escape temporarily, including bargaining for better food, clothes, clothing, working conditions, housing, and for visiting rights.
We just have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
What if a white man wanted to date a black woman at some time?
They didn't date them, they raped them.
Oh,
And what if they had kids?
They had kids.
So
So
what?
that's, they were,
Their own kids in slavery?
yeah. They wouldn't, a lot of white men wouldn't acknowledge, obviously, that they were having offspring with black women. And so, and sometimes they did show preference by like, oh, you're gonna be a maid or you're gonna be a house slave, which was different. It was a little bit higher status than being out in the field, but they were raping them.
Okay, but what if, like, but why not fall in love with the black lady?
What if?
Yeah, like, that's what if.
Then they would have relationships and not acknowledge it.
But were the rights changed or no?
The person that's enslaved, the rights change?
Yeah, because you know how.
No, they were still enslaved because they were still enslaved, they're still considered property. But again, what I was saying is like, they would show a little bit of preference for them by like having them be in the home, not beating them as much, like that kind of, so they had a different status, yeah.
Almost one where the slave owner, his daughter, then the slave owner, they put the baby. He started comparing them to all the black dudes. And then all of them stepped up to say that they were the father of the Jesus. I was like, damn, that's fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what happened, like this is, and then oftentimes, like the relationships were only one-sided. Like, these women were also enslaved, so it's not like they had a choice to say, no, I don't wanna be with you. They didn't have a choice. So that's what would happen. So let's, I circled bargaining because I thought this word was important in the sense to this quote that I underlined right here, because there were moments where they negotiated with their owners about getting some things for themselves, right? So they would escape, but the purpose of that escape was so that they could get something out of it from where they were, okay? So that's why I circled that bargaining. You know, it's like when the teachers went on strike. We went on strike. We stopped work. We said we're not working anymore until you agree to our demands. And so that's basically, that was bargaining. So our union went in and negotiated a contract for us. And then until the teachers agreed to it and signed it off, we weren't gonna come back to work. I know y'all wanted us to be out for the rest of the year, but.
They were in middle school, right, during that time?
Were you in middle school?
Yeah, I was in middle school.
Eighth grade,
You were,
eighth or seventh.
oh,
That was
you're
like
so
3
little.
years
Man, that was only 3 years ago.
before COVID.
I
That
was
was
in
only 3 years ago.
Yeah,
wasn't
but COVID was like 2 years ago.
Yes, when we started high school.
Yeah, I was in
like
seventh grade.
I was in
It was like seventh grade, eighth grade year.
it? Then it must have been 4 years ago.
Yeah.
This was eighth grade too.
You were in 8th grade.
Seven.
I was eighth.
I think you're senior.
Money.
Seven.
Are you sure you were in 7th? Did you skip a grade?
Oh, I was in seven.
Sure, it was around this time too.
Oh, was it?
Yes, it was. It was right when we came back from like winter break. It was
raining.
rain.
It was
It was
raining a lot.
raining.
Oh, yeah.
And it rained. Like, okay, thank you. Thank you.
My fucking heart.
Yeah, we're little. You were in middle school. Innocent. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Okay. Number 6. Slaves who bargain in such a way walk a fine line. Punishment for unsuccessful attempts or for other conduct the owner disliked could be severe, right? So they were like risking a lot. They didn't know if their negotiation would work. Slaves were defined as property by slave courts. I'm gonna underline that right there. Slaves were defined as property by slave state courts. Okay, so they were considered property. They're not even seen as human property, an item to sell and buy. Okay, and in the Dred Scott case of 1857 by the U.S. Supreme Court, as such, slaves were subject to the absolute authority of slaveholders and whatever controls they chose to employ. W.B. Allen, a former Alabama slave, personally knew some in bondage who were beaten, sometimes to death, for nothing more than being off the plantation without written permission. Okay. Other offenses that might result in extreme punishment were lying. Oh, dang, that's messed up. So I'm gonna underline this too. So if they were lying, loitering, stealing, and talking back, like sassing to a white person. You know the talking back that y'all do to teachers?
No,
Like that?
I don't talk back.
Or like, you know, like you rolling your eyes? Like that. They will get beaten or killed for stuff like that.
That's
Okay.
why.
I'm giving you an example of like the simple thing that they would do. Because obviously y'all are teenagers, y'all full of attitude. That's just your role in life right now. That's the role. But when you get older, you ain't gonna be rolling your eyes. Maybe you will, but behind your back. Like I be rolling my eyes, but not in front of people. So these are the little things, right? So they were risking a lot. There was a lot of risk there. Still, is anyone, I'm gonna pause right here, see anybody want to pick up? Oh, you mean over there? I didn't even know what you were, well, I need more volunteers, but I'll give you a fine, thanks for pointing it out. Right now, today you guys are doing great. Who's missing all week?
Come on, Ross, only.
Okay. Still, slaves resisted, most often cooperating with each other to do so. Okay, so they planned it. They had to balance their efforts, resisting enough to ease their burden, but not so much as to bring on punishment. So they had to strategize. Can you imagine how much strategy it took? Because they weren't allowed to talk to each other either. They could not talk to each other blatantly out there, be like, hey, like if they gathered together, they weren't allowed to do that. Okay? Because they knew, the owners knew if they're gathering together, they're planning something. Okay, so there was a lot of resistance. They organized work slowdowns. So you guys read about that? Slowdowns? What does that mean?
There's a pause there, man, so they start working slow.
They work really slow. They move really slow.
Like turtles.
Very slow. Right? Their masters wanted them to produce things fast. And they were like, okay. Very slow, but intentional. They played sick. Some of you guys read about that. They sabotaged or destroyed equipment to slow down the pace of work. Well, all of this, they pretended not to understand instructions. So they pretended to be what? No. Right? Intentionally. This was a strategy.
We should do this.
Slaves on one plantation rid themselves of an especially cruel overseer by slipping a snake into his cabin. So they were very like, okay, we don't like this person, but we can't like, we can't say it to his face, but what are we gonna do? We're gonna put a snake in his cabin, put in a snake, and out went the overseer, as Maddie Logan recalled. Never no more did he whip the slaves on that plantation. He was gone. What happened to him? He died. Strategies to resist. So I'm gonna put right here, resist. Sorry, you cannot see this. It says resistance. Strategies. Okay, so these are strategies. So you, when you go do your dialectical journal, you might want to capture this quote right here. Okay?
Let's take a picture of my brain.
For your brain?
Yeah, so I got a phone.
Because what?
No, I got a phone.
Double checking the time right now. Okay. Unfortunately, mitigating cruel treatment was rarely so simple. Slavery itself was the greatest cruelty of all, and for some slaves, the ultimate resistance, the only escape was death. One Georgia slave took her own life by swallowing strychnine, which is poisonous, in Convicted, Kentucky, two enslaved parents sent the souls of their children to heaven rather than have them descend to the hell of slavery. They even killed their own kids rather than them living into slavery. After releasing their children's souls, they released their own. So they also killed themselves. Another enslaved mother killed all 13 of her children in infancy to spare them a life of suffering as slaves.
Wow, imagine the trauma the mom.
But yeah, why? Like,
Right.
oh, because this life was not good. I'm gonna highlight some of these because I think if you want to make a point of like the brutality of slavery, you would use some of these. To how bad could it be, right? Well, this highlights a way that they resisted, but in a way that they ended their life.
And then like years later, get old age.
That's hard. Okay. Sometimes slaves killed their oppressors instead. So on one side, some killed their kids themselves to escape. On the other side, they killed their masters. Okay? Most famous for its violence was Nat Turner. Underline, highlight, circle, Nat Turner, 1831. Virginia Rebellion, in which more than 50 whites died. There were many others who fought back or conspired to do so. In 1800, more than 1,000 slaves marched on Richmond. The governor called out armed militiamen to turn them back. There were similar efforts to gain liberty in Pittsburgh and Norwalk. So this led to a slave revolt. Oh, you can't see that? Slave revolt. Okay. When one slave conspirator was asked what he had to say in his defense, he calmly replied, I have nothing more to offer than what General Washington would have had to offer had he been taken by British officials and put on trial by them. Period. I have ventured my life in endeavoring to obtain liberty of my countrymen, and I'm willing to sacrifice to their cause. And we're gonna stop right there. I see y'all. What time is it going?
It's already 2:01, but I'm not sure what kind of reading.
It's 2:02.
Maybe that's correct.
Woo, this is a long reading, but I think it's an important reading, so we're gonna finish it up on Monday. Important reading. What? Why not?
Cause I can see it, look at glasses.
You never wear glasses. Never seen you with
He
glasses.
takes a picture of it every day.
No, every day. I don't know if you're gonna be able to read my notes anyway.
He does wear glasses.
Yeah, I always wear them.
Oh, I was recording.
Contacts. Going good. That's great. You like touching my